Good morning, Titans. Today is Wednesday, February 26th, and you're watching OlyTV.
Titans, the final session of ACT Prep Science class will be held after school on Wednesday in Mr. Barton's room at 2:15. See you there.
Titans, there are so many opportunities waiting for you. All the CTE teachers are so anxious for you to run your world with CTE. Take advantage of their expertise, as well with each of your teachers. Plan your career path and be international. Whatever your pathway is, health science, engineering, graphic arts, business marketing, TV production, or teaching. Maybe you've selected foods or automotive. Make CTE your world. Make CTE work for you. CTE runs your world. You run the world.
When's the last time you went to a national park? New laws and layoffs may be affecting the state of our parks. Julie Jo went further into the subject.
Many people have fond memories of spending weekends during summer vacation at our country's beautiful national parks. Thanks to the efforts of park rangers, managers, on-site emergency response teams, and caretakers that keep the natural wonders pristine, many Americans have been able to enjoy the natural beauty of our country. However, these good times may be coming to an end as President Trump enacts thousands of layoffs for park employees, along with funding cuts. Employees such as rangers, emergency medical staff, campsite caretakers, tour guides, and other roles vital to the enjoyment, safety, and maintenance of the parks, who already have low wages and grueling hours, have found themselves suddenly unemployed. Visitors to the parks will see facilities that were already understaffed closed due to not having enough people to run them. Bathrooms will not be cleaned, litter will not be picked up, and worst of all, medical response teams will take much longer to reach hikers in need of help, as local EMTs take longer to reach the remote parks. The Department of Agriculture, which oversees the National Park and Forest Services, said that many of the terminated positions were funded by the Inflation Reduction Act under President Joe Biden. We have a solemn responsibility to be good stewards of the American people's hard-earned taxpayer dollars and to ensure that every dollar spent goes to serve the people, not the bureaucracy, part of the statement read. The statement is considerably ironic when paired with the fact that the national parks are probably one of the least bureaucratic organizations in the United States government. These folks aren't the swamp, they aren't bureaucrats, said Steve Gutierrez with the National Federation of Federal Workers. They feel like the government doesn't have their backs. Not only does this decision smell of more politics than it presents, it also actively nonsensical. The national parks bring in huge revenue through tourism, supporting 415,000 jobs and $55.6 billion in economic activity. The parks are economically crucial to the gateway communities as well as appealing to a wide range of demographics. These layoffs and funding cuts have already led to several partial and full closures of some parks, with many popular attractions and trails being closed. For example, the Denali, Alaska sled dog demonstrations are already suffering as they no longer have enough employees to run the sleds, which is the main attraction of the park. If you ever look forward to spending time visiting our country's natural wonders with your future families, those dreams may be under threat. Both those who support President Trump and those who don't can agree that our national parks are a staple of our country and everyone will suffer from their closure. The sudden and unprecedented job and funding cuts will be detrimental to the economics of our country and the state of our beautiful lands.
Thanks, Julie Jo. Did you know that our very own Mr. Miller is running for America's favorite teacher? In the first round of voting, he's currently ranked #1 in this group, and he needs your help. Follow the QR code and cast your vote. You can cast a free vote once per day. If he wins, he gets a cash prize, a trip to Hawaii, and we get an assembly with Bill Nye the Science Guy. Go cast your vote today. There's only 8 days left in this round.
Now on to entertainment and sports with Gracie.
Thanks, Caden. Yesterday, the Olympus boys basketball team moved on to the semifinals of the 5A state playoffs with a win over the Springville Red Devils, 70-56. Gavin Lowe carried for the Titans, scoring 31 points and driving to the paint at will. Other contributions came from Luke Owens with 12, Caden Jackson with 11, and Ty Goldsberry with 10. It's a quick turnaround for the Titans, though, who will be back up at the Huntsman Center tonight for the semifinals against Timpview T-Birds. It's a late one at 9 p.m., but we need all of you to be up on the hill as the Titans are chasing back-to-back titles. During the quarterfinal game, we had a great attendance from our student section, except you need to be better. make noise, and try to make a difference in the outcome of the game. So be better. Now this regular season, the O-Zone has not been good. So here's Miles with a report on the lack of student support during these games.
The once incredible student section of Olympus High School has simply been terrible during this regular season for both football and basketball. The playoffs, you guys always show up, but during the regular season, it's not great. From leaving the games at halftime during football to not even filling up 5 rows of bleachers at basketball games. To put it lightly, it has not been great. So let's take a deeper dive into the past to see how great the student section used to be and how downhill it has gone this season. Let's look at football first. Take a look at this student section to kick off the season 2 years ago. The section was full well before kickoff, which is exactly what you want. Back then, the students wanted to go to the games to support their teams and actually stayed the entire time despite the loss. Even when the team wasn't at their best, the O-Zone also showed up for rivalry games against Brighton and Skyline. Even when the Titans weren't playing at their best, they still showed up. Fast forward to this football season, the problem isn't that we're not getting people to go to the games. The problem is we've barely had an impact on the game, not making noise and just talking with your friends. But the bigger issue is that the student section leaves early before the game ends. I'll highlight the Skyline game this year where Olympus took a huge lead over the Eagles in the third quarter before a mass exit by the O-Zone. Keep in mind this is a rivalry game and you're up big on them. This isn't just some random game that you're deciding to leave early. This is one of your most disliked opponents, and you can't stay to support your team long enough. During this, here's what head commentator Lucas Pierce had to say about it.
The energy has just been taken out of this place. I don't know what's going on with the student section. It's ridiculous that they're leaving this early in the game. I understand it's cold, but you got to support your team in a rivalry game.
That pretty much sums up the inconsistency and utter embarrassment that the O-Zone has brought to the football games. And now they somehow got worse for basketball. Back in 2023, the students showed up very well for almost every game, doing an excellent job at supporting their team and participating in the student section clothes themes. Look at how this section was for their Sweethearts game, filling up not one but 2 whole sections. Early on in this season, there were barely anyone at these games. The one that they were able to get an okay crowd for was against Bingham during the Gavin Lowe buzzer beater. But even after that, the student section was still lacking the energy from past years. They did, however, put up a great section against Alta for the annual Morp game, filling up our part of the bleachers and even some of the track above. This was good, except the students simply don't show up to any of the other games. And it's not like our basketball team isn't good. They enter the playoffs as the 2 seed looking to defend their state title from last year. So there's no excuse to not take time out of to support a good basketball team during the regular season. But there is one thing that remains consistent. It's the attendance during the playoffs. Last Friday night, you guys were great, filling the entire section where the Titans moved to the quarterfinals. And during last year's state title, students were great. So show up to these games. So there it is. Aside from the excellence that you guys have brought to electric playoff games, there still isn't the same consistency in attendance that you see during the regular season. From leaving games at halftime or not showing up at all, something has to change. So try to replicate the success that we have during the playoffs, knowing how much of a difference that you're actually making.
The NBA trade deadline happened a few weeks ago, and it did not disappoint. Here's James with a recap of what unfolded.
This NBA trade deadline has been called the craziest NBA trade deadline of all time. No NBA fan will forget some of the trades that hazards, sending Kyle Kuzma to the Bucks and De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs, which also moved Zach LaVine to the Kings. In all those deals mentioned, the players are prolific scorers who can have a big impact on their team. We will go into depth about 3 of the trades now, starting with the Jimmy Butler to the Warriors. The Jimmy Butler fiasco in Miami is finally over. After being suspended several times for conduct detrimental to the team and having not played since January, Butler is now the running mate for Stephen Curry. Butler's scoring ability gives Golden State a real scoring option and a fighting chance in the postseason this year. De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox requested a trade shortly before the deadline, catching many fans off guard. He seemed content in Sacramento with Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan, who they acquired in the offseason. However, Fox's frustration with the Kings is not unwarranted. He has been incredible for them, and yet they have not been a top playoff team for 3 out of the last 4 years. Now he will be paired up with the alien Victor Wembanyama, and the NBA world knows they will be a lethal duo. And finally, the Luka Doncic-Anthony Davis trade. This trade shocked the entire world. Even people who weren't NBA fans were surprised by this news. No one thought the Mavericks would trade Luka even if held at gunpoint. Instead, they traded him for an aging Anthony Davis who got hurt in his first game and is out for quite a while, a young Max Christie, and 1 first-round pick. For reference, Mikal Bridges, who is a solid player but by no means Luka Doncic, was traded for 5 first-round picks earlier this year, and the Mavs got only 1 for Luka. With the Lakers currently sitting at the 5 seed, we'll see if Luka Magic can propel them to get another chip for LeBron and Luka.
Remember the Super Bowl halftime show? Here's some recent news on Kendrick Lamar since then.
In the wake of the Super Bowl 59 halftime show, Kendrick Lamar has risen to become one of the biggest artists in the world. He has successfully hit over 100 million monthly listeners on Spotify, becoming the first rapper ever to do so and one of only 9 artists to ever accomplish the feat. The 9 being Ariana Grande, Billie Eilish, Bruno Mars, Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga, Mariah Carey, Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, and Kendrick Lamar himself. These 5 being the only ones currently with over 100 million. All of this adds to Kendrick Lamar's already impressive resume, including some of the best rap albums of the time, 20 Grammys, a Pulitzer Prize, and a recent victory over one of the biggest rappers in the world. On top of all of this, he has inspired and uplifted a generation of people through his music and the hopeful messages it contains. It's no wonder why many people are starting to consider him as the best rapper of all time.
Speaking of games, recently Kai bet $50 on a weird puzzle game. Here are the results.
Recently, as many of you know, I went into the cafeteria and bet $50 on a puzzle game challenge. A lot of contestants came up to the stage, played their hearts out, and lost. Like a loser. No offense. But that is only half the story. Let's rewind back to earlier that day. I bet $20 instead to the OlyTV classroom to try and beat my puzzle. And we didn't have to wait long for some competitors. And then as the challenge went on, I realized I should do this in the cafeteria and bet $50. There was actually also a point in the cafeteria where I was going to bet $100, but decided against it, which I almost lost. There was only one kid that got extremely close to the high score, and even that was still like 3 to 4 seconds off. So in the end, nobody won, you all suck, I win. Now let's head back over to the desk to see what else is cooking.
That's all from me. Now let's go back to the desk with AJ and Caden.
Thanks, Gracie.
Now here's Colin with the weather.
Good morning, Titans. It is Wednesday, and I am your weatherman, Colin Malga. This week, it's warming up time, so there's no need for a jacket anymore. So, let's get started. On Wednesday, we start off with a high of 45 and a low of 28. That high gets even higher as we continue into Thursday with a high of 47 and a low of 31. As we turn into Friday, it gets even warmer with a high of 49 and a low of 31. And throughout all 3 of these days, we get sunny. Now, as we move into the weekend, it gets a little cloudier, but the temperatures stay rising. So on Saturday, we have a high of 50, and Sunday, we have a high of 55, and then Saturday, we have a low of 39 and a high of 42. But as we turn the corner into the new week on Monday, we see a high of 48 and a low of 39 with some rain showers, so get your coats out. And then as we move into Tuesday, we have a high of 46 and a low of 36 with even snow. But based on Groundhog Day, we still have 3 weeks left of winter, so it's nice to have a sunny weekend, but still. Make sure to bring your coats on Monday and Tuesday. That's all from me. For weather, back to the desk.
Thanks, Colin.
And thank you for watching. Subscribe to OlyTV and follow our updates on Instagram for around Olympus and beyond. Our next broadcast will be Wednesday, March 5th. Don't forget to be there. Olympus versus Timpview semifinals tonight at 9. Good luck, boys. Have a winning Wednesday, Titans.
What's the issue?